when he gets in. I'm going to go ahead and do the housekeeping.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone that's here joining us. This is the session for providing AT services with the Centers for Independent Living. Mr. Adam Krass and Brian Fitzgibbons will be the presenters. I just want to go through a few housekeeping issues this morning. We encourage everyone to rename your Zoom profile to include your organization, and this will help everyone get a sense of who is participating in this session. Please make sure your microphones are on mute and your videos off to guard against any type of noise distractions during the session. You can use the chat area to add any comments, share information, or request or ask any questions during the presentation. There will also be time for Q&A following the presentation. You may unmute yourself during that time to ask questions as well, if you don't put them in the chat. There's a recording of this session taking place, and it will be available within the next few days. Those who were in the 8:30 session, Mike did advise where you had the Zoom link, we'll then have the link of the recording later on. If you, well, the caption's already on, so, and there are no ASL interpreters for me to pin in this one. So if you have any handouts, again, the presenters will provide those at that session link. There's also a Google Doc where these things will be posted for your convenience. If you need any help during this time, the chat technology help is in the original link where we had the opening session this morning. You can always go there for any assistance from Mike or Naomi. Okay, and with no other housekeeping, I turn it back over to Adam Krass to begin the session. Thank you.
Okay, Maritza, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And welcome, everyone. It's good to see some familiar names and some unfamiliar names. So I'm glad all of you could make it today to attend this presentation about assistive technology delivered through Centers for Independent Living. And Brian Fitzgibbons, who is the CEO of Heightened Independence and Progress, a Center for Independent Living based in Bergen and Hudson County, New Jersey, should be joining us momentarily. So in the meantime, I'll try to carry to talk about both aspects of the model that we use to provide assistive technology. And over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to delve into the details of what we're doing. And also, I'm going to be leaving some time at the end to have a discussion to get your thoughts on ways to replicate this model of delivering assistive technology through Centers for Independent Living, but also to have a discussion about strategies, ideas that you have, if any other CILs have done this, get your experiences, etc. And I really don't mind being interrupted. So if you have a question or if there's something that's not clear, turn on your mic and ask your question, or if you prefer to type in the chat, Maritza is going to be monitoring that for us, so she'll be able to let me know when there's a question. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I just want to let you know that in the session notes for session A1, which is this one, it has information about myself and Brian, overview. Some of you have putting in your participant's name. And if you scroll down below the participant list, you'll see a link to the Google Slides for this session. So if you want to follow along on your own copy, just click that link and you should be able to see the full slide deck. All right. All right, let me just adjust all my windows here. Okay, so Today, we're going to talk about providing AT services via independent living centers. My name is Adam Krass, and I am an assistive technology consultant. We're going to have a hybrid session, meaning we're going to talk for a while, and then you're going to talk for a while, I hope. So I hope we can get a nice discussion going a little bit later in the presentation. So a little bit about myself. I provide assistive technology services for children and adults. I'm based in Bergen County, New Jersey. I serve northern, central New Jersey and New York City in person. Anywhere else via Zoom, FaceTime, Google Meet, Duo, phone, etc. I provide evaluations, training for students, staff, and families, ongoing support, webinars and workshops, modifications and customization. I also get a little bit involved in product design and product testing. I am offering free 30-minute AT consultations available for anyone with a disability or anyone that's working with them. If you send me an email or call me, we could schedule a session. These are virtual sessions, so they're phone, Zoom, Google Meet, etc. A little bit about Heightened Independence and Progress. It's a center for independent living, that's supporting independent living for people with disabilities. HIP is a nonprofit agency run by and for people with disabilities. Its purpose is to promote full inclusion and full accessibility for all people and to enhance the ability of every individual to live and work with maximum independence. HIP provides a wide range of services for people with disabilities in the area of advocacy, information referral, peer support, independent living skills, and independent living skills training. They offer employment services, life skills training classes, and recreational activities for adults and young adults. They provide services to people with disabilities in Bergen and Hudson Counties, New Jersey, and support independent living in their communities. HIP is located in beautiful downtown Hackensack, which, by the way, if you haven't been there recently, is undergoing a huge makeover. They are totally redoing the business district of Hackensack. So next time you're in Hackensack, well, their office is not open yet fully to the public, but give a call and say hi. I've been volunteering at HIP for over 10 years. And recently, within the last year, also working as a paid consultant. But I've been involved with HIP for many years. I've been involved with the independent living movement for many years. My first job in assistive technology was with Dial for Independent Living in Clifton, New Jersey, that serves Passaic and I believe Essex County. So my early days in the field of working in assistive technology began in an independent living center. So I'm very much in favor. I believe in the mission of Centers for Independent Living, and I believe they provide a critical service to adults with disabilities who often are not getting services through other agencies for one reason or another. And we can talk a little bit more about that later. So what are some of the needs of HIP's consumers? Whoops, sorry about that. Okay. All right, there we go. Most of HIP's consumers are either young adults or adults. They have all kinds of disabilities. HIP does run a number of support groups specifically for people with vision loss. And historically, HIP has provided a fair number of services for people with visual impairments, but also services for people with all kinds of disabilities. Their founder Eileen Goff was a person with visual impairment, so she had a natural connection with that community. So they have a little bit of a history of providing services for all people with all kinds of disabilities, including visual impairments. But in terms of the AT related needs, it really runs the gamut from people just wanting to learn to use technology, especially during the times these days of the COVID coronavirus pandemic, to, someone gives them a new device, they need to learn how to use it. We have a lot of folks coming in looking for help with their visually accessing information. So looking for magnifiers or how to operate the accessibility settings on their device. We have folks with fine motor related issues that need help either accessing technology or help with activities of daily living. People looking for help with communication, with reading, writing, attending virtual meetings, environmental control, so turning on lights, unlocking doors, answering phone, etc., self-care. And one thing that was notable this past year and a half is that there were a lot of adults who wanted to learn how to use Zoom. They wanted to do virtual meetings. They wanted to keep in touch with people on Google Meet, etc. So this was a huge incentive for a lot of people who kind of didn't have an incentive to learn technology. This opportunity to participate in meetings and have social gatherings, et cetera, via Zoom, really encouraged a lot of people to jump onto the technology wagon, get some sort of technology, whether it was an iPad or a smartphone or a laptop, Chromebook, et cetera, and learn how to use Zoom. So we've been spending a lot of time helping people, get set up and learn how to use Zoom. And it's been a very interesting, if you call it a silver lining at all, from this pandemic, that's one of them. The other thing that happened over the past year and a half is that HIP was able to apply for CARES funding and did receive some pandemic related funding. This has enabled HIP to increase their ability to help individuals purchase assistive technology, and they've been able to take me on as a consultant. So I've transitioned from a little bit from a volunteer to a consultant. But if that money dries up, I still enjoy working with HIP, so I would continue as a volunteer anyway. And by the way, I encourage other assistive technology professionals to reach out to your local independent living center. There's one that serves every county in New Jersey, and their independent living centers are active throughout the country. They generally provide services to adults with disabilities who often are not getting services through a lot of the other channels. They may not be working, so they might not be eligible for services through voc rehab agencies. Depending on the type of disability, there may be a patchwork of agencies and nonprofits that provide services to them, but often they're underemployed. They may be on a fixed income. They may be on struggling to make ends meet, and funding to purchase assistive technology is often out of reach for many of the folks that are members of HIP, and I'm sure the same is true for many other independent living centers. So volunteering with HIP has been great, and I encourage those of you who are looking for volunteer opportunities to reach out to your local independent living center and see if you can get something started. HIP's model of providing AT services. Any questions so far or comments?
No questions yet in the chat, Adam.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Maritza. So HIP's model of providing AT services. Well, this was first developed when Eileen Goff was the director of HIP, and unfortunately she passed away a few years ago, and it was a great loss for the disability community. But Eileen was the founder of HIP, and I had reached out to them just to see if they were interested in doing some assistive technology work, and they were. So we set up what I call an AT clinic, and I was referred by the HIP case managers or anyone at HIP that was working with someone who they thought might benefit from some help with assistive technology. And HIP, I'm just going to jump ahead here. HIP also has a program called SNAP. And SNAP is called the Special Needs Assistance Program. It's a small grant program that's funded by Bergen County Human Services Department. So HIP gets a grant from Bergen County, and they use this money up to $300 per person to help individuals purchase or help purchase assistive technology. There's an application process that they have to complete. The application gets evaluated, and if it's approved, then HIP would, if it's under $300, they may purchase the item, or they may, I think they may also reimburse. I have to double check on that. But the SNAP program has been in place for years. It's a successful one, and that sort of formed the starting point for me to work with HIP in terms of assistive technology. But we also did a number of programs on low-cost assistive technology. We had a lot of people that were interested in handheld magnifiers and other low-tech assistive technology for activities of daily living, like eating, cooking, self-care, basic mobility aids, home safety, etc. And I was able to get also a grant with HIP, a grant with Disability Rights New Jersey a number of years ago to do a low-tech assistive technology demonstration program. And HIP was partnered with me on that. So we've been able to do some grants over the years, in addition to the volunteering.
I just wanted to take a moment. Brian is here.
Yeah, here I am. I'm so sorry. I thought it was 9:30 for one reason, and then Mike had to redirect me because I got into the wrong chat. So who do you think needs more assistive technology in this room than me? But anyway, I apologize for being late, and I want to thank Adam in advance because he's been terrific. And just to explain where I guess I'll use my little bit of time here just to say what we've decided to do. Centers for Independent Living were very fortunate during when the CARES Act came along, because we got a lot of money to purchase things, specifically technology for people with disabilities who need it, so that they could communicate with each other, communicate with friends, many of them to participate in their Zoom meetings, at their day programs, etc. So what we did was we were able to buy Chromebooks, iPads, different things like that. And we said, what good is some of this stuff if people really don't know how to use it? And we were finding out little by little, people were calling us and saying, well, gee, we just don't know how to do this. And so Adam has been a long time volunteer at HIP, and certainly a supporter of everything we've done. He's helped, and we've gotten a few grants together where he and I worked with, we were working with some veterans to teach them how to use iPads, et cetera. This is before the COVID crisis. So we knew Adam pretty well, and he's been a wonderful volunteer. So I said, let's set up a fee-for-service situation with you. And so as we need it, we will call you. And that was like setting something on fire. People, Adam is here many times, well, many times a month. We have isolated an area in our conference room, which is has an open door to the outside, and is able to Adam's able to do his his assistive technology stuff there. It's usually what person brings their iPad in or something else. And we have had some success stories that you wouldn't record as success stories normally, except I'll tell you one funny story. We have a fellow who loved to complain to us about everything. So he would constantly call us about our newsletter, about something else. He learned how to use the iPad, and now he doesn't call us anymore because all his questions are answered about all his beefs about the newsletter and why didn't it come out on time, or why didn't do this, or why didn't do that. So, I mean, it's kind of funny that, because I called him and I said, haven't heard from you in a while. And he said, well, I don't need to talk to you because I have the iPad now and I know everything that's going on. So I said, that did it. That was, Adam gets an A+ for that one. So he eliminated phone calls for us. So that was good. But we love the kid anyway. I mean, we do. He's a good consumer. But so I know I jumped in the middle of what you were saying, Adam. I will now shut up and let you keep going. So.
No, actually, it's perfect timing, Brian, because I was talking about the model of service delivery of AT services, and it would be great if you want to jump in and just like talk about the process, how the referrals move through the organization, and how they get to me, and then what do we do from there?
We get our referrals from so many places. Like most centers for independent living, we don't just rely on the federal grant that we get from the Administration of Community Living, Health and Human Services Department. We get that grant as a straight-on Center for Independent Living. But what we do is that we've diversified ourselves in many different areas. As far as state funding, we've diversified where we are. We function as a support coordinator agency for the Division of Developmental Disabilities, and we kind of, our staff processes cases for them and situates people in either day programs, support and employment situations, et cetera, anything that they need. The second group that we work with the Division of Senior Services in Bergen County is that we do care management, and that would be to work with anybody over 60 who is in need of some level of care, and they need to be able to fill out the paperwork and qualify for things like MLTSS, which is an institutional Medicaid, and then Medicaid in general, and certain things like food stamps or any benefit program that's eligible for seniors. And then that program also extends to caregivers under 60 who are giving care to someone who is in need. So we work with them too. In terms of the county as well, we work with another division of the county to offer what we call our modification access project, which is we have a fund to build ramps. And we have a very unique situation in Bergen County where we work with the prisoner program, and they build the ramps with us or for us. And then we also use private contractors to get the ramps built. Not only do we do ramps, we do railings, grab bars, and things like that. In terms of smaller equipment, because those are big projects. And small stuff, we work with we have something called SNAP, with Special Needs Access Project, which is buying small items, specifically air conditioners for people with respiratory issues, canes, crutches, things like, walkers. Walkers are a big deal. And we do supply grab bars under that program as well. And we have the volunteer chore services in Bergen County kind of install them. So it's both very good programs to get people projects and everything else. One of the ways that the SNAP, and we call it SNAP, of course, it's going to be confused with the food stamps program, but it's not the same. With the SNAP program, when we realized that during the height of the pandemic, when people were shipping Meals on Wheels packages for people, and they were sending them a week's supply frozen, we kind of know that many people did not have microwaves. So what we did was put out a real call, a quick call, and said, Snap, we'll purchase a microwave for you. So we bought many micro. You take a microwave for granted until you don't have one, or you meet somebody who doesn't have one. So we've got microwaves for folks. So put that in our palette of services. So we do a little bit of everything. Anything that's necessary. We have life alerts for people. We have anything. Our philosophy is to keep people in the community as long and as successfully as possible. So that's where somebody like Adam comes in, where he can help people utilize everything in the community. We are very heavily invested.
Brian, I just want to interject something. I think you've also used the SNAP program to buy things like help buy Chromebooks, magnifiers.
Yeah, that was our special project. Yeah, that wasn't SNAP though. That was our COVID response project. But that's how we bought the Chromebooks and the iPads and different things like that. That was a special pot of money that we had gotten as part of the CARES Act, which we will have until the end of September next year. So you thought it was SNAP and MAP because Maria takes care of it. Maria Valentine is the lady who's in charge of our MAP and SNAP programs. So we threw that into her job duties. So that's the confusion there. But I was going to go on to say that we have a heavy population of people with vision loss. And at various stages of vision loss, whether it's just an early stage where they might need a magnifier, or to kind of late stages where they need a CCTV, something to read for them, or readers. And then, certainly people who are blind, we have some adjustments. So we run, we're up to 6 adjustment to vision loss groups. We have a dynamic woman named Tricia, who many people might know, she's wonderful at doing all and bringing these groups together. And she's managed to run them virtually since the epidemic started. So, but she's dying to get back in live action. She's got her centers are all calling her saying, well, we're open and ready for action. So she does centers, programs in North Arlington, Fort Lee, and one other place I can't remember. But she's out there doing a lot of different things. Plus, we do them in the office when we can as well. But that's where we're getting a great deal of our referrals for Adam, because people apparently the iPad is more successful for a person with vision loss than some of the other items, and Adam can speak to that, I guess. But the only problem with the iPad, if you have another issue and you can't hold on to the iPad, or you can't put the iPad stationary, or you need a touch key, we have to get a keyboard with the iPad. Many people who have vision loss, or they have locator buttons for where the right things are for them to be typing. So, you'd have to raise the button. So you can't do that on a traditional iPad, but you can do it when you put a keyboard on the iPad. So anything else?
Now, Brian, can you see the slides?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Okay, so usually what happens in terms of the process is I'll get an email from Brian or from Tricia or Maria or someone else at HEP saying, someone just got an iPad, or we purchased an iPad for them, or we purchased something else, or they have something and they need help with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll provide some basic background information for the individual. Then I'll reach out and typically do a phone interview to get a little bit more information. Then we typically set up an in-person consultation, usually at HIP, but I have been going to a few individuals' homes on a limited basis. And then we look at the technology. Sometimes we need to do a follow-up. Sometimes they may need some additional technology. So we'll do like an informal consultation. I'm not going to call it an evaluation, but we do sort of an AT consideration, as it were. And sometimes there are additional purchases. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the case studies. And here's the SNAP program again that Brian talked about. And here we are at the case studies. Brian, we go till 9:45. I thought we would leave a little bit of time for discussion.
Absolutely.
Because I'd like to get people's feedback and do some brainstorming if someone else wants to replicate this model.
I am always open for suggestions on how to improve what we do, expand, and to share our information. So I'm willing to stay. Since I was late, I should probably have to stay till 10.
But I'm also interested in anyone else that might, have a connection with their local independent living center and might be interested in trying to start something similar there. So
Well, as it turns out today, Adam,
Yeah.
right after this call, my next call is with the New Jersey Association of CIL Directors. And I'll be on the line with all 11 CILs. And I'll mention where I was and see if anybody, maybe some people are on the line. I can't see all the names, but it's possible that, some of the people already know about it. Centers for Independent Living do so many different things, and they're very reluctant to brag about what they do because they just do it. It's just normal. So they're quite, I've only been with them for 4 years, but I've been in their corner for 40 years because when I was a counselor, and by counselor, when I worked for the Division of Voc Rehab, in every job they had there, I was delighted the day that 1978 came when they announced that the Rehab Act would include independent living as part of the mandate, and we still follow that mandate, and it's just expanded in all those years. So I think that a lot of people say vocational rehabilitation is the best kept secret. Well, independent living is more secret than that even. So we want to promote it everywhere we go.
Yeah, and Brian, I just want to put in a plug for HIP and other CILs, because the thing that I think is awesome about all CILs is they know their area. You guys know Bergen and Hudson Counties. If someone calls and says, I need help with fill in the blank, almost anything, you guys know where to send them. And I think CILs are a great place to go if you don't know where to start.
Right.
And there are a lot of people in the country and in New Jersey, let's say someone becomes disabled later in life, or they have to take care of someone that has a disability and they don't know what to do. CILs are, I think, a great place to start because they have great resources and they know the players.
Yeah. Well, that's one of our core principles, what's called information and referral. A lot of us in the business call it INR. And you know what? If we don't know the answer, we'll look for it, or we'll know where to find it. And thankfully, with the computers the way they are and Google and everything else, I had a person that had a complaint about someplace in North Carolina the other day. I got a Google and I got on there and I got a hold of the IL, the Center for Independent Living in North Carolina. What was it, South Carolina? Well, one of them. And yeah, Raleigh with that, South Carolina. So was it North? No, it's North Carolina. I'm sorry.
North.
I'm to New Jersey, everybody. I'm sorry. But we got a resolution. So I think that was really something. So we're a national system where, as many, because the Rehab Act covers the whole country, so does the independent living section of the Rehab Act. So there's an Center for Independent Living anywhere you want to look. You can just look up Centers for Independent Living and you get a whole roster of places that could do it. And so the one that I found in Raleigh was fantastic. They had really a whole palette of services that I'm trying to copy right now. So.
Okay, so our first case study is Austin. Austin's been involved with independent living centers, both Dial and HIP, for many, many years. He's a great self-advocate. He lives on his own. He uses a wheelchair. He's a pretty computer savvy user, but he has some fine motor skills, and he has a slight speech. He has slight dysarthritic speech, so sometimes it's a little hard to understand what he's saying, especially if you don't know him. He wants to upgrade his computer system so that he can go on the internet, do email, do Zoom meetings, keep track of his personal finances, research resources in the area, etc. He also needs a new computer desk, and he's considering for the first time using augmented communication for making phone calls. unfortunately, a close family member recently passed away, and that family member was helping him with a lot of appointments, etc. And now Austin is doing more of that on his own, and he's realizing that when he's making a phone call with people, sometimes he's having difficulty making himself understood. So for the first time, I've known him a long time. He's open to the idea of considering an augmented communication device, so that when he's making a phone call and someone can't understand him, he could use, let's say, something based on an iPad to get his message across. So I've been working with Austin I've been working with him almost continuously for probably, well, I've known him for 30 years, but we've been working on and off for 10 years at HIP. Austin's a great guy, and we're in the process of getting his new computer, and then I'll help him set it up.
Austin puts his talents to very good and useful methods. As a matter of fact, he's represented on about 6 committees in Bergen County, one of which meets at 11:30, and I don't think I can make that meeting, but he sits on the Division of Disability Services Committee Advisory Council. He sits on the Bergen County Community Transportation Advisory Council. He's been a wonderful friend to HIP. And he's even in People First and different things like that. So he puts all of his skills to use, because he's a very well-educated fellow, and it's a result of some of his ability to do the stuff that he does, because of the assistive technology that he's received.
Now, Richard, we talked about, he's a gentleman using the iPad. I just wanted to add one thing about Richard. He's looking to access books.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're looking at a variety of talking book options. One of them is Bard, which a lot of people don't know about. This is also through the Library of Congress, and it's an app similar to listening to books on Audible. You download a audiobook digital file onto a phone, tablet, computer, etc., and you don't have to worry about the cartridges and those funky tape recorders anymore. Well, they're not tape recorders, they're players. So it's a little bit easier, a little bit faster. Nothing has to get sent. You sign up to the Bard app and you can download the book. It stays on your device as long as you want it. And it's the exact same experience as the cartridges. Anyway, and our next case study is Deirdre. Deirdre contacted HIP. I think she found HIP on her own. She's was very resourceful, and she wanted to get better physical access to her computer, and was interested in getting an iPad. But she had some fine motor skills issues, and she had a tech person that was working with her, Matt, who we also worked with. So we ended up getting a keyboard and a switch adapted joystick that we plugged into the iPad to help Deirdre navigate the iPad. So that's worked out quite well. We've got about 5 minutes left. Before we go to the discussion portion, I just wanted to point out that there is a short demonstration survey form. I'm doing this presentation through a grant with Disability Rights New Jersey, just as this conference is sponsored. So if you wouldn't mind filling out this form, it just takes like 3 minutes. It'd be greatly appreciated. And just to let you know, our last slide has all of our contact information. So please feel free to reach out to us. But I wanted to open it up to talking about how to replicate this model in other places, or ideas that you have, suggestions, questions.
Okay. I just wanted, this is Maritza Williams, to quickly advise us, along with Adam, that if you're seeking to obtain a certificate of attendance, you must complete the survey at the end of the Excel spreadsheet, which shows all of the sessions. Okay, just want to let everyone know that. Now it's open if anyone has any questions or to add, as Adam has said.
And you could either turn on your mic and just talk to us, or you could type a message in the chat.
And there are no questions presently in the chat, so go
I
ahead.
had a quick question. My name's Justin O'Toole. I work with Folk Rehab in Portland, Maine. The SNAP program, I just want to clarify, this is not a federal program. This is specific to New Jersey, correct?
It's state money that gets filtered through the county offices on senior services. We're an ADRC, which is one of those area aging and disability resource centers. So money comes through there, and it's what they call peer grouping grants, and it's a New Jersey technology term. So it would come through. It comes through the Department of Community Development. I assume it comes from some federal place somewhere, but it's definitely a New Jersey kind of thing. But you could dig around and probably find and create a program just like it, because it's so useful. Especially, well, you're from Folk Rehab, so sometimes it's hard to get some of those little items that you can't, with a case. So if you could utilize your Center for Independent Living for that, it would be an ideal use of collaboration.
Thank you.
There's a question in the chat from Donna Spillman Kennedy. She wants to know if she can save the slides and fill out the survey from there.
Okay, thanks, Maritza. I just put the link to the survey in the chat. I hope that will help. I should have put it into the resource Google Docs. I'll put it there as well. But the link to the survey is in the chat window now. I hope that answers your question, Donna. Okay, I saw a thumbs up. Okay, great.
Oh, look at that.
Okay. We have
Yeah,
about
so
5. Yep.
Other questions?
Something in the chat. Oh, that was.
No, that was just response. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, is anyone else associated with an independent living center, or works for an independent living center, or wants to get involved with one?
Well, I just met Jennifer from Atlantic County. She just reached out to me. I know Don very well, and they're our newest Center for Independent Living in New Jersey. They're a great little upstart, and there she is, Jennifer.
Hi, Brian. Hi, Adam. Thank you
Jennifer.
so much for this. Yes, we're new, and it was great hearing your presentation, because this is definitely something that we would like to start to get in order for ourselves.
That'd be great.
That's great. And Brian, I'm not going to volunteer you, but if anyone would like to speak with me about the details of how we've done this and how it's grown, give me a call or send me an email. I'm happy to share, what we've done. And like I said, it's something that just kind of grew organically.
Yes.
Over the years, but I think it's been. I think it fits in well. I think with the mission of an independent living center,
yeah.
And I think it's a nice way for assistive technology practitioners to work with individuals who they might not have worked with before, because there's just not a lot of funding out there for adults with disabilities who may not be working, or they may not be interested in working, or they may not be working at the time.
Yeah. Well, the way independent living works, it's on your way, considering work. We're not mandated to put people to work like Folk Rehab, but what we are is like to introduce them to the idea of working as along with their activities of daily living, So we have the 4 core services would be information and referral, peer support, individual and systems advocacy, and independent living skills training. And then there's also a component called transitioning, which would be transition students from school to adult services, or people to transition people out of nursing homes into the community. So it's a little bit of everything that way. There's a couple of questions in the chat about people wanting to get involved with independent living. every state has what's called a statewide independent living council, a SILC. It's called a SILC. Look it up in your state. It's the statewide independent living council, and they can point you in the right direction for any kind of thing that you want to start up, or any information. They give you an address list of where all the CILs are, and it's very helpful to starting one up, because they're mandated to have these centers. So.
Okay, and I hate to interrupt at this point, but it's 9:45, so I'd like to just thank you all for having attended this session. Again, all of the information has been recorded, and you'll find it at the link where you join the Zoom. Eventually, it will be the recording, so you'll be able to have access to everything from that point. Thanks, Brian and Adam.
Thank you, Marissa.
You guys enjoy the rest
Thank you
of
very much,
the
Maritza.
summit.
Sorry I was
Take
late.
care.
Thanks very
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Brian.